She walked in to her own bedroom and then fired 3 shots into her mother, killing her. Then after that, she says, I put 3 in my mom and I got 3 more waiting for my stepdad when he gets home.
The defendant violently raped Colleen Ritzer. He put Colleen Ritzer inside a recycle bin, wheeled her to the woods, and pulled up her shirt, exposing her breasts. Thereafter, he spread her legs and inserted a large tree branch inside.
Entered that classroom and proceeded to fire the rifle into that classroom.
I'm going to go ahead and adjudicate you guilty of all 3 charges, sentence you to 20 years in state prison.
Okay, for now, focus here for a minute. Think a little about yourself too. An Indonesian scientist has uncovered a shocking truth about belly fat, and it has nothing to do with diet or exercise. 95% of people who tried this strange bedtime ritual lost 25 pounds or more. Some even dropped over 50, all while sleeping. No gym, no starving, just one simple step before bed. It sounds crazy, but it's backed by science. Tap the link in the description and see for yourself.
An entire family's been murdered in cold blood.
Everyone in that house was shot in the head. Except for you.
On the morning of June 15th, 2021, authorities at the Cedar Rapids Police Department in Iowa received a strange 911 call.
Someone broke into our house. I've been shot. My other family member's been shot. I need help immediately. I've been shot in the foot. Someone broke in.
Okay, hold on just a second. Are they still there?
No, they left.
They left? Did they come inside the house? Okay, where were...
Behind the phone was 20-year-old college student Alexander Jackson, who claimed that an intruder had broken into his house and shot him and his family. When police arrived, they discovered the bodies of 61-year-old Jan Jackson, 68-year-old Melissa Jackson, and 19-year-old Sabrina with multiple gunshot wounds, while Alex was found crawling nearby with a single gun wound to his foot.
Start another 15 Justin, you guys are both Corey, you and Justin, you upstairs. Kurt, you want to go upstairs with them? Jim, you want to help the one with your foot?
This all needs to be cleared out, though. We got a door here.
Who's this down here?
Hey, who are you?
My dad. Is that your dad?
What happened?
What happened?
He came down. There was a man.
Who shot your
Who else is here?
My sister.
She's back?
Yeah, she's in her room.
Is she okay?
I think so.
What's her name?
Sabrina?
Sabrina?
Is that a room right there?
Yeah.
Sabrina!
Did you already got this behind us?
I did. I got that. Oh, Sabrina!
Hey!
Zero police!
Hey! Oh!
Hey.
Sorry.
Third victim.
Dewey.
Third victim?
Yeah.
115, we had 3 victims. We're going to get at least 3 ambulances.
I knew it.
I think this door might connect, so I'm going to open it just so you guys know. Alright.
Okay.
CRPD! Bradley! Alright. That next to this office.
Good. So we had triple homicide.
After police found no signs of burglary or anything stolen from the house, they turned their attention towards Alex, who now became their prime suspect.
Alex, in reality, there's not any evidence that anyone else was over at your house. Alex, do you want to tell us what happened? What really happened?
We're not here to judge you at all. Like I said,
I went downstairs, and the man was there. My father. They got shot. I think he left. Alex, that's not what the evidence is showing. What do you mean?
so the person that hurt your family was inside your home.
Okay. Who?
Well,
It's not me.
you didn't hurt your family.
No, I would never. I wouldn't.
You shot yourself in the foot. Because you have to shoot yourself in the foot.
I wouldn't do that.
Okay, but yeah, You wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to do that either, but you have to because how can everybody else?
Why would I do something like this?
To make it look like students.
However, Alex maintained his innocence and the case went to trial.
Why would Alexander Jackson kill his family? It makes no sense. This was a normal family. This was a happy family.
Even though no motive was ever established, the prosecution presented a ton of evidence during the trial. Blood spatter found near Alex's bed indicated he'd shot himself there, not where he claimed he encountered an intruder in a downstairs living room.
He told me he was shot out by his father and that he crawled around after that. So I don't know why there's any bloody footprints.
The spatter and the footprints prove to you, ladies and gentlemen, that the defendant was in his bedroom when he shot himself in the foot.
Police also discovered that the only prints on the murder weapon belonged to Alex.
If the intruder was holding the gun, where would you have expected to find Mr. Jackson's fingerprints?
Not on the buttstock end. On the barrel end is where I would expect to find those.
Can you remind us how you described the quality of those prints?
The quality was very good on those. There was lots of detail present.
Would you expect the quality of a print to be that good if a struggle was ensuing over this firearm?
Not at all. If there's a struggle and somebody was gripping the gun there, that means there's forces on both sides, so that gun's gonna be moving around. And prints are very delicate, so, as we described earlier, if you slide your hand across something, it makes smear marks and kind of distorts the whole print. Those prints didn't really have any indication at all of that type of movement on the print.
Eventually, after 2 days of deliberations, the jurors reached a verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Alexander Jackson, guilty of the offense of murder in the first degree.
Ultimately, Alexander Jackson was convicted and sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences with no possibility of parole. While we'll never know why an entire family was executed by one of their own, what happens when the actions of abusive parents give birth to a county's youngest killer?
I was Jackson one. You did. Who was it that you just stabbed? I don't know. I'm fed up with life.
This is 12-year-old Jamarian Lawhorn, who was facing murder charges in Kentwood, Michigan.
No words to explain holding my dying son in my arms. No way to count the trauma of his brothers watching him die.
On August 4th, 2014, 9-year-old Connor Vakirky was brutally stabbed several times outside his home while playing with his brother.
Jamarian just started stabbing him.
Was Connor bleeding?
Yes.
Where was he bleeding from?
And they showed it coming from the back.
Police said Jamarian, who himself was a victim of child abuse, stabbed Connor 4 times in the back with a kitchen knife before running to a neighbor's house and calling 911.
I was Jackson one. You did. Yeah. Who was it that you just stabbed? I don't know. The person just came. They're gonna try to beat me. They're gonna try to beat me. So hurry up and come film me or take me to jail or something. They're gonna come and kill me. Yes, I did it. Because I'm fed up with life and I want to die.
Meanwhile, Connor somehow managed to drag himself to his house before collapsing in his mother's arms. He died soon after.
There was blood everywhere, and his eyes were bloodshot, and there was blood coming out of his mouth like a river. And it was all over my husband and all over my porch.
It was later revealed that Jamarian was part of an ongoing child abuse investigation. Child Protective Services had previously found him living in a deplorable condition, with bruise marks all over his body.
Beat with the belt by his mother, extension cord by his stepdad, and then grandmother apparently hit him with a sandal. All of that history and his physical examination led to a diagnosis of probable inflicted trauma and pediatric physical abuse.
Jamarian's parents were arrested and charged with child abuse. His stepfather, Bernard Harold, pleaded guilty, while his mother, Anita Lawhorn, was convicted of third-degree child abuse. Jamarian was tried as an adult and was eventually found guilty of first-degree murder.
I'm sorry for my actions. I have been going through lots of things during that month. Every night I have cried for all the pain I have caused throughout the whole process. What I did was wrong. I just do not understand why I did it. I made a terrible mistake. I just want you to know that I am sorry for all the pain you have been going through.
Considering his age and the abuse he faced at the hands of his parents, Jamarian was ultimately given a blended sentence of probation and 8 years at a juvenile correctional facility.
I just don't want to run any risk that he waives his rights.
In March 2021, Jamarian Lawhorn was released from custody at the age of 19 after spending 6.5 years at the facility.
A free man, but was he a changed man? And what would he do with his second chance?
While Jamarian's actions can be blamed on abusive parents, what happens when a 14-year-old brings a gun to school?
A young person brought a gun into a school, committed an evil act, and he took lives, and he injured many other people, not only physically, but mentally.
This is Colt Gray, a teenager who was responsible for a deadly shooting in Winder, Georgia.
He entered that classroom and proceeded to fire the rifle into that classroom.
On September 4th, 2024, Colt allegedly opened fire at Appalachia High School and fatally shot his teachers, Richard Aspinwall and Christina Irami, and classmates Mason Schermerhorn and Christian Angulo. 7 others were injured in the gunfire. The shooter surrendered after being confronted by 2 school resource officers.
The teen allegedly came to school with his long gun wrapped inside a poster board to look like a school project. Before opening fire, police say Colt texted his parents that he was sorry. His mother says she warned the school after getting that message.
Between my gut feelings, the text messages, y'all need to go, run.
Even though his motives are still unknown, Colt had previously shown signs of his deteriorating mental health stemming from a bad home environment.
Says a picture is emerging of a troubled family and some missed warning signs.
Revelations came during a probable cause hearing for Colin Gray, the suspect's father, who also faces murder charges. Prosecutors say he was aware of his son's deteriorating mental health and of his fascination with mass murder. They described a shrine the teen allegedly made to school shootings in their home.
13-year-old had possibly threatened to shoot up a middle school the next day.
A year earlier, Colt was questioned by the FBI about some threats he made online, including shooting up a middle school.
So we got a tip from the FBI saying that somebody from your old address had made a threat to shoot up a school. For real? Yes, sir. And your name was associated with that address. So we went over to that address, and you weren't living there, so now we live here. So did your dad kind of explain everything to you?
He said something about school shooting up a school.
Did you say something about school shooting?
Never. I just told him, I don't know what. Maybe they misheard somebody else. I would never say I would threaten them to shoot school.
You never ever said.
No, I swear.
If you look me in the eye and you tell me that's what you're telling me, I got no choice but to take it at your word right now, okay?
Yes, sir.
But like I was telling your dad, if we find out otherwise, then it's a different story, okay?
It's a really different story.
But his father, Colin Gray, dismissed those claims.
I don't know anything about him saying shit like that, and I'm gonna be mad as hell if he did. And then all the guns will go away.
Ignored all the warning signs and instead bought his son a gun for Christmas.
For me and Colt, he's hunting with a 450 Bushmaster. Yes, sir. 107 yards.
Colin was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, second-degree cruelty to children, and reckless conduct. As for Colt, he was indicted on a total of 55 counts, including 4 counts of felony and malice murder, plus aggravated assault and cruelty to children.
Another notebook in that same room, it was a drawing of a rifle with what appears to be ammunition coming out of it, and then the word kids.
Investigators also found several notebooks where the shooter had sketched and detailed his sinister plans.
Under the classroom column is written 15 to 17 killed, injured, 2 to 3. Further down the page is written classroom 2, 3 to 5 killed, injured, 2 to 3. And in parentheses off to the side, it says, surprised if I make it this far.
As of now, Colt Gray has pleaded not guilty and is set to go to trial. If convicted, he could spend the rest of his adult life in prison. While responsible parenting could have prevented this school shooting, how does it compare to beating your grandmother to death?
This 14-year-old, originally from Ukraine, and she wound up beating her grandmother to death.
Like in the case of Sofia Koval, who was facing charges of manslaughter in Lauderdale Lakes, Florida.
Arrest documents say Sophia admitted to her father that she had beaten her grandmother.
Murder my mother, like my daughter. It's a terrible, unexpected event.
In the early hours of May 23, 2024, 79-year-old Juvenile Koval was found unresponsive at her home with multiple bruises on her body. She later died at the hospital. Police arrested the elderly woman's 14-year-old granddaughter, Sophia, in connection with the brutal murder. According to reports, Sophia, a Ukrainian immigrant, allegedly beat her grandmother to death with her walker and a belt. She also confessed to the police that she helped the elderly woman die because she was old and already dying. Sophia's father and the victim's son blamed his daughter's actions on behavioral issues stemming from witnessing the war in Ukraine and being separated from her mother.
My heart is in pain, between both. My mother passed away, it's no way to return. I'm losing my daughter. And I don't know how our relationship will develop after this.
Before the incident, Sophia's father allegedly tried to discipline her by taking away her cell phone, something which may have pushed the troubled teen over the edge.
Sophia had never been diagnosed with a mental illness, but was showing signs of aggression and being agitated.
Sophia was charged as an adult with first-degree manslaughter and even faced deportation back to Ukraine.
You are charged with 1 count of manslaughter. It is a second-degree felony. It is punishable by up to 15 years Florida State Prison. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
How do you wish to plead?
No contest.
Eventually, Sophia Koval pleaded no contest and was sentenced to 3 years in the juvenile justice system's maximum risk program. While a teenager suffering from war trauma bludgeoned her own grandmother to death, what happens when a 14-year-old killed her mom from marijuana?
She walks straight to her parents' bedroom and removes a .357 Magnum from under the mattress. She peeks her head around the kitchen to make sure that her mom hasn't come out of her bedroom. She walked in to her own bedroom and then fired 3 shots into her mother, killing her.
This is Carly Gregg, who was accused of shooting and attempting to kill her parents in Brandon, Mississippi.
Your daughter tried to shoot you? Yeah. Shooting at me. Where is she at? She ran away. How old is she? 14. 14? Okay, ma'am, stay on the phone. Ma'am, stay on the phone with me. Just calm down. What's your name? Molly. All right. And what's her name? Carly Gregg. Does she still have a gun on her? I took it from her. She ran.
On March 19th, 2024, 40-year-old schoolteacher Ashley Smiley was found brutally murdered at her home. Police believed she was shot by her teenage daughter Carly after being confronted over smoking marijuana.
The violence unfolded just hours after a friend told Greg's mom about the teen's marijuana use.
Surveillance footage inside the house showed a routine day for the family as both Ashley and Carly returned home from school. But things suddenly took a darker turn when Carly realized her mother was searching her room for hidden drugs. The teenager went straight to her parents' room and allegedly armed herself with Ashley's handgun before sneaking into her own room and shooting her mother 3 times. Calm and emotionless Carly was next seen in the kitchen, hiding the gun from the camera. She then proceeded to lure her stepdad, Heath Smiley, by texting him from her mother's cell phone. As soon as Heath arrived at the house, Carly opened fire.
When I opened the door to the kitchen there, gun went off in my face.
Fortunately, the bullet grazed Heath's arm, who managed to wrestle the gun away from Carly.
If I leave, it's going to take care of my dogs. So we'll take care of that, okay? You can let them in the kennel. We'll take care of that, okay?
Carly then climbed over the backyard fence and escaped. But police soon caught up with her, and she was arrested and charged as an adult with murder and attempted murder.
All right, sweetie. Look. I mean, Let me see. Step out real quick for me. All right. Hey, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over around to the front of you, okay?
Facing life in prison, Carly was offered a plea deal of 40 years, which she rejected, and instead opted for an insanity defense.
Looks to me to be cool and collected and unemotional. I would have expected, had she panicked, that she would be quite agitated and emotionally around. I didn't see that at all. And then I see her engaged in this plan to shoot her stepfather, which makes no sense to me. If she had panicked and done this with her mother, why in the world, I mean, even that is, somewhat incomprehensible. But why in the world would she then plan an hour later to shoot her stepfather? That makes no sense to me.
After a trial that lasted just 4 days, the jury eventually reached a verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of attempted murder as charged in the indictment. Quote, as to count 1, we, the jury, sentence the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, to life imprisonment, close quote.
Ultimately, Carly Gregg was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for the heinous crimes against her parents. While a young girl killed her mom for marijuana, how does it compare to murdering your best friend for money?
I just went along with it because problem solved, right? I was just planning on intimidating her, but when she started freaking out, saying she's gonna go to the cops and everything else, that's when he shot her, I was just like, well, problem solved.
Like in the case of Denali Bremer, who was accused of kidnapping and murdering 19-year-old Cynthia Hoffman in Anchorage, Alaska. Bremer was just 18 when she met a man online named Tyler. Tyler portrayed himself as a millionaire and offered Bremer $9 million if she managed to kill someone in Alaska and send him pictures. Blinded by greed, Bremer recruited a few friends and targeted her best friend, Cynthia. They lured Cynthia to Thunder Falls, where she was duct taped and shot in the back of the head before being thrown into a nearby river.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do it.
Bremer and her friend then confessed the crime to Bremer's mother, who then informed the authorities.
That Miss Bremer engaged in one of the most serious crimes that we have in Alaska. She executed Cynthia Hoffman in a murder for hire plot. She conspired with numerous other individuals in and outside of Alaska, including juveniles, forever altering everybody's life. She may not have pulled the trigger, but this never would have happened if it weren't for Denali Bremer.
After realizing that she was catfished to commit the crime, Bremer pleaded guilty to first-degree murder.
I know what I did was wrong, and I know I could have probably done something different.
At her sentencing, Bremer addressed the victim's family and apologized for her actions.
The hurt I caused you and your family, I can never rectify in any way. I understand it hurts. You lost a precious child, and the community lost a daughter as well. I am truly sorry for my role in your loss.
Ultimately, Denali Bremer was sentenced to 99 years in prison for the murder of her best friend.
When someone loses their life because of a decision you made, there's got to be consequences for that.
Tyler, the catfisher, whose real name is Darren Schillmiller, was also sentenced to 99 years in prison for his role in Cynthia's death.
He convinced her that he was a 20-year-old, good-looking young man that had won the lottery, had millions of dollars, and he used that money to dangle in front of her and get her to do whatever he wanted.
He could have given him as few as 5 years, but gave him 99 to serve.
While greed and lies destroyed the lives of so many teenagers, what happens when a brother murders a brother?
What happened to the side of his head?
I pushed him against a bookstone.
This is 12-year-old Christian Fernandez, the youngest person in Florida's history to be charged with murder. On March 14th, 2011, Christian was alone at his Jacksonville home looking after his 3 siblings when he allegedly beat his 2-year-old stepbrother, David Galeriago, to death in a fit of rage. When the children's mother, 25-year-old Bianella Susanna, returned home, she found David unresponsive and bleeding from the nose. However, instead of getting help, Susanna changed David's clothes, cleaned his face, and waited for him to wake up. Much later, David was rushed to the hospital with severe head injuries due to blunt force trauma. He passed away 2 days later.
And he took me by the head and smacked twice into the bookshelf. He cried first time, and then you pushed him again.
I let her stop crying.
Both Christian and Susanna were brought in for questioning, where the latter shockingly revealed that she was more concerned about getting in trouble with child services rather than getting her dying child medical help.
I didn't away because after my husband passed away, like they assigned me to a caseworker, and the caseworker comes and monitors everything, right? And I'm like, okay, I already have a caseworker. If they think that I'm doing something bad to one, I have 3 other ones that depend on me, and I don't want them taken away from me.
Did that worry you?
It did worry me, but it worried me more the fact that, you know, they're going to think that I did it.
Meanwhile, Christian confessed to murdering his sibling in anger and blamed his actions on the severe abuse he faced at the hands of his parents.
I pushed him against a bookshelf.
How many times did you push him into the shelf?
Twice.
Why'd you push him? Are you angry about something?
Yes.
What were you angry about?
My stepdad did it to me.
Christian was charged as an adult with first-degree murder and faced the possibility of life in prison.
Don't forget, you're indicting a 12-year-old child for first-degree murder when you, the state, know he didn't intentionally kill his brother. You know that going into it. So what are you thinking?
However, his defense lawyers were able to bring down the charges, and eventually, Christian pleaded guilty as a juvenile to manslaughter and aggravated battery.
While some people think that Christian was partly responsible, the first-degree charge was too severe. They believe he should have been charged as a juvenile.
After spending 7 years in a juvenile detention center, Christian was released in January 2018, just days after his 19th birthday. As for Susanna, she was charged with negligence for her role in baby David's death and was sentenced to 10 years probation. She also lost custody of her 3 surviving children. While bad parenting resulted in the death of a toddler, how does it compare to assaulting and murdering your teacher?
The defendant violently raped Colleen Ritzer. He viciously, brutally, and senselessly attacked Colleen in the girls' bathroom.
This is Philip Chisholm, who's on trial for a brutal murder in Danvers, Massachusetts.
Horrific murder. A teacher killed in a school. Her student accused.
Chisholm was only 14 when he intimately assaulted and stabbed his math teacher, 24-year-old Colleen Ritzer, to death in a Danvers high school bathroom. Surveillance footage from the school's hallway showed Ritzer heading toward the ladies' room. Chisholm, who was secretly stalking Ritzer, followed her inside. A few minutes later, Chisholm was seen running outside, where he grabbed a large recycling bin and headed straight back to the bathroom. He was then seen with his face covered, dragging the bin through the hallway and outside the school premises. Both Ritzer and Chisholm were reported missing. Hours later, at around midnight, police found Chisholm walking alongside a highway and stopped to question him.
I asked him if he knew where the girl was.
What did he tell you?
He stated that she was buried in the woods.
And what did you ask him next?
I asked him if we can get to him, can we help her?
And what did he tell you?
He said no.
The murder weapon, a box cutter with Ritzer's blood on it, was found in Chisholm's backpack, along with the victim's purse, keys, and credit cards. Police also managed to recover Ritzer's body in the woods near the school, a few yards away from the place of her dream job. During the trial, investigators revealed the chilling confession Chisholm made while in custody.
So he said he karate chopped her neck, which rendered her unconscious. He talked about putting his hand on her mouth, and then he talked about dragging that box cutter across her neck without it causing any injury. We had asked him to kind of draw us a map of the area so that we could kind of pinpoint where she would be.
Even Chisholm's defense attorney admitted that he was a murderer.
Philip Chisholm killed Colleen Ritzer.
But claimed that her client was severely mentally ill.
He had been suffering from a psychotic disorder since the age of 10.
However, the prosecution argued that the murder was premeditated, as Chisholm went to school that day well prepared.
A blue sweatshirt with a hood, gloves, a mask, a box cutter.
Eventually, after 2 days of deliberations, the jury found Chisholm guilty on all counts.
The defendant violently raped Colleen Ritzer. He viciously, brutally, and senselessly attacked Colleen in the girls' bathroom. When the defendant was finished in the bathroom, he put Colleen Ritzer inside a recycle bin, wheeled her to the woods, and pulled up her shirt, exposing her breasts. Thereafter, he spread her legs and inserted a large tree branch inside her. Colleen Ritzer was found dead hours later after a frantic search by law enforcement. The jury found, to a moral certainty, that the defendant killed Colleen Ritzer and that he was criminally responsible for her murder. No amount of prison time would ever be enough to be commensurate with this crime, and no math will ever erase the reality that this crime was committed by a 14-year-old boy.
Ultimately, Philip Chisholm was sentenced to life in prison with the chance for parole after 40 years for the horrific murder of his teacher. While some may say that Philip Chisholm got away with a lighter sentence, what happens when a teenager targets a 4-year-old?
Eric Smith choked and battered the young life out of Derek Roby.
Like in the case of Eric Smith, who was accused of murdering a child in Savona, New York. On August 2nd, 1993, Derek Roby was on his way to a local park when 13-year-old Eric Smith stopped him. Smith lured Derek to a nearby field where he proceeded to brutally beat and strangle the 4-year-old to death.
We never forget our boy. I wouldn't wish this on anyone.
Police soon found Derek's mutilated body with his head caved in with a large rock. 5 days later, Smith confessed to his mother and was subsequently arrested and charged with second-degree murder.
He was about that tall. He weighed 40 pounds. He lived 4 years and 10 months. And that person killed him.
During the trial, which made national headlines, Smith's lawyer argued that his young client suffered from a mental illness that got out of control on that fateful day.
It's a case that belongs to psychiatrists, and if it goes to trial, there'll be psychiatrists on both sides, and the jury will decide which psychiatrist they give more weight to.
Picture a child that size picking up a 26-pound rock and throwing it onto Derek Roby, onto his head, another heavy rock onto his chest. What does that reflect about his mental state? What does that reflect about his emotional state?
However, Smith's neighbors claim to have seen signs of disturbing behavior since his childhood, including torturing and killing small animals.
I knew I had a problem with anger. I knew I do. I might be, just happy-go-lucky now, and someone get me mad.
I remember him coming up to me in the kitchen. He was really upset, and he was crunching his fists and shaking. He said, "Dad, I need help. I feel like I want to hurt somebody."
Eric went out and beat the crap out of a tree. But then he came back in, and his hands were all bloody. That's not right.
After both sides presented their cases, it took jurors 10.5 hours to reach a unanimous verdict.
So you find the defendant guilty of murder in the second degree?
Yes.
Is that unanimous?
Yes.
You may be seated.
Ultimately, Eric Smith was convicted and sentenced to the maximum term then available for juvenile murderers, 9 years to life in prison. After being denied parole 10 times, Smith was finally set free in 2021 after spending 27 years in prison.
I want to, get married, raise a family, hold down, a job, pursue the American dream.
While Eric Smith spent the best years of his life in prison for murdering a child, what happens when a defendant's sister lashes out in court?
Man, that's man, my brother got 13 years old.
This is Lance Dyer, who was accused of assaulting a police officer with a gun in Dayton, Ohio.
I still don't believe that he pointed a gun at a police officer because my son would be dead.
In 2014, Dyer was just 17 when he stole a car and went on a joyride. After a brief police chase, Dyer was cornered and forced to ditch the vehicle. Then, suddenly, he whipped out a gun and pointed it at an officer. The officer returned fire, and Dyer ended up getting shot in the arm. Dyer was not seriously injured, but he was charged and ultimately convicted of felonious assault and carrying a weapon under disability.
I can't think of anything more serious than someone pointing a loaded weapon at a police officer. You are lucky to be standing here in front of me today. instead of being in the ground.
However, Dyer's sister, Nakiana, made a case for her brother's innocence.
We actually had a for sure feeling he was coming home because we gave scientific proof, we gave everything we needed. I honestly feel like they looked at him and then looked at the man in the uniform and automatically went with his side, because at the end of the day, it was too much evidence and too much proof that my brother did not do the things that they said.
But her pleas fell on deaf ears as Dyer was eventually given an 11-year prison sentence. This is when things went crazy.
Is there anything further from the state?
And that's man, my brother got 13 years old.
It was an explosive ending to a case that started over a year ago.
After Judge Dennis Adkins sealed Dyer's fate, the defendant's sister flew into a rage and exploded. 2 court deputies grabbed Nakiana and dragged her out of the courtroom. She faced no additional charges.
Dyer's sister will not be charged for the courtroom outburst, but she was banned from the property.
While emotions ran at an all-time high during Lance Dyer's sentencing, what happens when a privileged teenager causes a fatal crash?
Oh, Lord, oh, yes, there's another child in the ditch. Oh, my God.
Like in the case of Ethan Couch, who was accused of causing the deaths of multiple people in Burleson, Texas.
Tarrant County 911, what is your emergency?
There's a multi-car accident out in front of my house.
There's 4 or 5 kids. There's kids laying in ditches and streets.
Oh, my God. We've got one laying on the road unconscious. They say he's breathing.
On June 15th, 2013, 16-year-old Ethan was out on a joyride with his friends. High on drugs and alcohol, the teenager drove at high speeds when he lost control of his truck and rammed it into a group of people standing by the side of the road.
16-year-old Ethan Couch was 3 times the legal drinking limit and speeding when his truck crashed into and killed 4 pedestrians. Earlier in the evening, he and his 7 passengers had stolen 2 cases of beer from a shop.
The collision killed 4 people and injured 9 others, with one of them permanently paralyzed from the neck down. At the time of the accident, Ethan's blood alcohol level was 3 times the legal limit for an adult driver. Ethan, who did not suffer any injuries, was arrested and charged with 4 counts of intoxication manslaughter and 2 counts of intoxication assault. Ethan pleaded guilty and faced up to 20 years in prison. However, his lawyers argued that Ethan suffered from a condition called affluenza and had no moral compass, meaning he was unable to link his actions with consequences because, since childhood, his wealthy parents had taught him that money buys privilege.
I'm pretty sure there might even have been a chuckle in the back of the courtroom because it was just absurd.
However, the judge saw it otherwise and shockingly gave Ethan no jail time, enraging the victim's family members.
He may think he's gotten away with something, but he hasn't gotten away with anything.
My wife and daughter are gone, and there were absolutely no consequences.
Instead, Ethan was sentenced to 10 years probation and mandatory rehabilitation at a luxurious residential facility in California. He was also ordered to stay away from drugs, alcohol, and driving.
The air was just sucked out of that room. All we could do is just be patient and wait and see if what I predicted was going to happen would happen.
And it did.
And it did.
2 years later, Ethan was again in trouble after a video surfaced that placed him at a party with alcohol, violating his probation conditions.
2, 1, come on!
To avoid arrest, Ethan fled to Mexico with his mother. However, both were arrested by Mexican authorities and extradited back to the United States. Ethan's mother was charged with money laundering and preventing the capture of a fugitive and was sentenced to 180 days in prison. As for Ethan, he would finally see the walls of a prison, as a judge sent him to 2 years behind bars for violating probation and fleeing the country. While the spoiled teenager destroyed the lives of so many, what happens when you're accused of shooting your date? This is 18-year-old Keandria Cook, who was facing attempted murder and robbery charges in Daytona Beach, Florida. In 2017, Cook and her 17-year-old boyfriend, Kendrick Bass, lured 2 men at a car park using an online dating app and set them up for a carjacking. When the couple tried to steal the car, the men resisted, and Bass ended up shooting at them. One of the bullets hit 17-year-old Emmanuel Purcell and seriously wounded him. Bass was later convicted of his crimes and sentenced to 20 years in prison. As for Cook, she pleaded no contest to charges of carjacking and aggravated battery, and pleaded with Judge Matt Foxman for a lenient sentence.
I just want to say that
I'm sorry for the big wrong that her son had to get shot, because I didn't even know he was going to get shot. My boyfriend and his friends get threatened me to do this. I didn't even know what was going on until I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. I just want to say I asked for forgiveness for I get a chance so I can get out and finish school and I can keep my mama proud.
The judge was having none of it.
That being said, this was intentional. It was an orchestrated ambush, and you are a main part of that. And for that, I'm going to go ahead and adjudicate you guilty of all 3 charges, sentence you to 20 years in state prison.
Suddenly, the courtroom exploded. Cook and her family clearly did not expect the hefty sentence. Later, it was revealed that Cook had been misled by her public defender and accepted the plea deal, falsely believing she would not face any prison time.
18-year-old Daytona Beach High School student who was sentenced to 20 years in prison for carjacking and battery has been allowed to withdraw her plea. The sentence was also thrown out.
After learning about the incident, Judge Foxman allowed Cook to withdraw her plea and struck down her sentence. A few months later, she was back in court to learn her new fate.
I'm going to adjudicate you guilty of all 3 offenses. As to count 3, I'm going to sentence you to 11 years for state prison.
This time, Keandria Cook was properly sentenced to 11 years in prison and 20 years of probation for her crimes. While Keandria Cook exposed the dangers of blind dating, what happens when a little child beats a toddler to death?
Do you think she's been painted as a monster?
Yes, I do.
Is she?
No, she's not.
Like this 10-year-old girl from Tilden, Wisconsin, who was accused of murdering an infant at a daycare center in 2018.
He's having a hard time breathing and his head is swelling.
Referred only as AF in court records, the girl was living with her foster parents, who ran a daycare where 6-month-old Jackson Hunter was enrolled. According to reports, AF dropped baby Jackson on his head, who immediately started crying. The girl then allegedly panicked and stomped on the baby to keep him quiet, ultimately killing him.
Police say the girl was inside with 6-month-old baby Jackson when she accidentally dropped him. That's when cops say she panicked and stomped on his head to stop him from crying.
An autopsy revealed 7 distinct impacts to Jackson's head, suggesting he had been stomped on multiple times. AF was arrested and charged as an adult with first-degree homicide with intent.
She, in my opinion, deserved to be in shackles or handcuffs. She's a criminal.
However, during the trial, it was revealed that AF had a history of mental health issues. Her parents tried repeatedly to get her help, but were told she was too young to be admitted to a mental health facility.
As a 10-year-old girl, I seen it as the person who killed my son.
She had suicidal indentations, yes.
And you couldn't get her help?
I could not. They sent her home because apparently suicide had an age limit. They denied my daughter because she wasn't 12 years old.
Eventually, AF was deemed incompetent to stand trial. She is currently being held in an adult unit at a mental health facility.